Oh, hello, everybody. We are live, it says. I'm actually running this on my phone, not on my Wi Fi, just in case there's some sort of an internet issue. So hopefully you guys can see me and you can see Dakota. Sports Cards Anonymous is joining me here tonight. Dakota, what's going on, man?
That's too much. I like the phone. I don't know if it's your phone or if you hired a makeup artist, but you're looking good
Yeah,
over there.
I've
It's
been
all right.
working on makeup all afternoon just for this moment. So I'm glad that you
There we go.
noticed. But
Yeah.
yeah, my phone definitely has a better camera than the laptop does. I don't
Sure.
know. And honestly, I have fiber internet. Like I have good internet, so I don't understand why like internet works great all the time, except when I'm on a live stream. I don't know. Like all of a sudden it just kind of pops off. What happened? Just kind of a side note. Did the Vikings win? Because I was watching that game. Did they actually win the game?
Yeah, they were down 33 nothing. They came back, tied it at
Whoa.
36, and then won with like 1 second left in overtime. They kick a field goal to win the game.
Wow. Yeah, I was watching, or I think I caught the score, and it was like 36-14, or I don't know, whatever it was. And we just, my son and I were not watching it, and then turned it on as it was going into overtime, and I just never saw the ending. But I'm gonna do. I think we had talked about it. Gonna do like the hot tub after this, and then gonna watch that late game because I think that's gonna be a good one. I'm excited to watch that 8:15 game.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Bills in Miami, right? That's going to be a great
Yeah,
game. So this
it
game, the
feel
game that's on right now, Ravens Brown should have been a good one, but with Lamar out, it's been a stinker. I don't know what I haven't checked the score in 20 minutes, but it's been a stinker halfway through the third.
Yeah, our teams. I'm a Saints fan. You're a Texans fan. You're both. The sad part is I would say like, oh well, we've both got draft picks to look forward to, but actually, it's just your team that has draft picks. My team, the Eagles, are probably going to win the Super Bowl and then have like the 5th overall pick or something. But
I mean, honestly, I feel for Saints fans. People are going to talk about how bad the Texans are, and that's fine, but we do have our pick at least. Oh, and we have an extra pick. And then I read Today's Saturday, yeah. I'm getting confused because of the games. I read yesterday that, the Saints are gonna bring back Dennis Allen, and I was like, "I don't know if I like that too much." Not too big of a fan of that move, but, whatever.
it's kind of weird because I thought Dennis Allen would be completely fine. And the thing is there's just been not that he's been absolutely terrible, but there's definitely a drop off of leadership in the locker room. And granted, we had Sean Payton, so
Yeah,
tough to replace. I could probably pick out 20 head coaches in the league that are not Sean Payton
right.
right now. But and then it stings when Sean Payton's talking to the media and it's like, I really want to coach. I want it to be a good situation like New Orleans, but basically not New Orleans. Like
Not
he's
New
like,
Orleans.
and
Yeah.
that hurts. So I hope that he goes to like, I don't know, the Chargers or a team that's outside of our conference, and we get their first rounder or something like that. We'll see.
Well,
Let's say
it could
hello.
be
Yeah, go ahead.
pretty interesting, actually, you mentioning the Chargers, because I could see where they trade for Sean Payton and Kamara and Michael Thomas, right? Something like that. I think the Saints are better off moving off of those guys,
Yeah.
just with their window and everything. And Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas and with the Chargers and Sean Payton and Herbert. Ooh, that seems all right to me. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Kamara, obviously he's an amazing talent, but he's 20 mil a year. Michael Thomas, 20 mil a year. That adds up real quick. And Michael Thomas, of course, we just haven't seen him in a couple years. And as great as Kamara is, he's just, it's that running back window. We got the amazing with both those guys, really. The first 4 years they were with us, we were getting amazing, value out of them. They were working for nothing and they were producing like crazy. And then now it's kind of the other way around. So, all right, let's go. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to kind of balance this out with my phone. So, hello to Pyro Bully Gaming, SpongeBob, and Eeyore having the podcast about sports cards. I don't know how I feel about that, but Kamikaze Sports Card. SEA can't watch. He doesn't watch others' content. Kamikaze, I can't figure out if you're I think you troll me most of the time. So
He's
welcome,
trolling.
regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless, welcome. Chris C, how you doing? Topps Chrome update QC is about as good as 84 Topps football so far. Brutal. Paul, what's going on, man? 10 Hall of Famers, but no one knows who they are yet. Okay. Um, let's see. What else do we have? Ryan
What's up?
McClanahan, Flippin' Steve.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Good group of guys. What's up, Vegas Fine? Steve,
Yeah,
hello.
Chris.
Ryan, thank you for stopping in. Good group of folks in here today.
congrats on your house, Steve. And actually, I feel somewhat responsible for you being able to buy that house with the money I lost on the Russell Wilson rookies that you sold me. So, so you're welcome, buddy. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm really happy. Steve actually has a saltwater pool at his place, so I'm going to be visiting. I'm going to be visiting soon.
Yeah, at the very least, you bought him about 3 months of maintenance on that pool. So,
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're closing out 2022. You retired from sports card content this year, and yet you are still putting out a decent amount of content, really, from what I can see. So, is that kind of more of like you're missing it, or is it more of like, I've got some good idea, like thoughts in my head, I want to share it, or I think a PC video would be cool. Like, what's kind of your strategy there, or is it just kind of you're taking it one day at a time?
yeah, it is one day at a time. I mean, I made a cognizant effort to step away from YouTube and to call it retirement because I don't want anyone, in the community to expect videos from me. I knew that it just kind of put me in a bad mental space. I felt like this obligation to pump out daily, and it wasn't healthy for me. Um, And so, I needed that separation, and me calling it retirement and saying I'm hanging it up and I'm done, that helps me say I'm done. And then when I feel a calling to put out a video, I'll throw one out. And, for the folks out there in the community, they don't have expectations of daily videos from me. And I hope that they just see that when I do post a video, it's a bonus. And if they're interested, cool, it's just a bonus for them. But, yeah, I can't do the daily expectation or even the nearly daily expectation. It was just, it was too much for me, and it took too much time, away from my career, my family, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, since you've been retired, have you do you like how it is now, or do you think that you could go back to, more stuff or, kind of like, or is this kind of like how you like it? There's no expectations. You show up when you want.
Yeah, I like how it is. I can't see myself ever going back to daily. It's just I mean, I could see myself wanting to do it, but the problem is the grind and the work that I put into it it's not equal to what I get out of it. And I mean, that could sound selfish, but I owe my family a lot. So like I need to put my time into things that are productive, not just for myself, but for the people that I support. And that's really the main reason for, my decision.
I feel like when you look at card content, the one thing I wish there was kind of more of, but honestly, it could be card content or it could be any type of content, is more just comedy attached to it, like an office style, show or something like if a grading company had, some sort of like reality show, to where it kind of gave you an inside look, but it was set up like The
That's a good
Office, like
idea.
a Michael Scott. I think that would be insane. I think it would be awesome. But it could be a card company. It could be any type of company. That's just something I think it would. But because I'm so entrenched in sports card content, if we're looking like what could we add in that's new, I think that would be really fun. But that would also be high production. There'd be risk attached to it. They might put a lot of money into it, and then it just doesn't. Nobody likes it or whatever. But I just think that would be really fun. More of kind of like the entertainment side. I think we have kind of there's the informational side. Some people say we're lacking there in some ways. We're probably lacking on specifics with information. When you think about education information, as far as like individual sets and this and that, there's channels that do that. But, I think that we have a fair amount of kind of the folks kind of talking more on the informational side. But the comedy side is where I'd like to see kind of the more of the entertainment style. I don't know about you though. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, comedy would be fun. I've had a lot of skit ideas, but I'm always worried about like offending people. Not that it matters that much, but it's a hobby and people just want to enjoy it. And I don't want to piss people off when they're just trying to enjoy their hobby. Like some people may remember, I gave you a real hard time in a video. And I mean, I messaged you before. I even let you see the video before I posted it because
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be, I didn't want it to
Yeah.
be beef. It was just meant to be fun. But people in the hobby take this shit so serious. And it's just like, you got to be real careful. Otherwise, people just think there's beef everywhere. Um, I think maybe I don't know. People don't give a shit about like the content in sports cards, I guess is my take, but I would like to see like more detailed decision making. Cuz like Ryan, card collector too, he puts out like, spent $5,000 at a card show, and then one video will be him digging through boxes and then one video will be him showing you the cards that he picked. But you never really get to filter through his decision making process. You just kind of literally see him off to the side digging through boxes and then you see him showing what he bought, but the decision making process isn't quite there. And I think that if we had that, that would be interesting because you would learn more about the specifics. I think, to your second point, as they walk through that and why they think that's a good buy at that price, kind of thing.
That's actually a good point. And I don't watch, not that I don't like Ryan's stuff, but I don't typically watch his stuff. But yeah, I kind of assume that that's part of what he did. But yeah, that would be good if there was kind of like, I'm going to buy these because it's off season for this sport, or I'm in Ohio and these sell really well in the store or whatever. Yeah, something. I think that I agree.
Yeah.
That would definitely be helpful. That would be helpful. What do you look for? Okay, so 2023 is upon us. We are pretty much into 2023. You're a little bit like me in the sense that I feel like you're kind of all over the place with your collectible stuff, and I mean that in a nice way. You're into football cards, you're into Pokemon, and then there's also sealed product, which is both of these things or all of
We
these
call that
things.
diverse. It's fine. You can call it all over the place.
Diverse, all over the place. It might seem like you're not organized, but I can see though that you have a plan. There's not really
Yeah.
like, it's not like you're just jumping on at 3 a.m. and just buying something for the hell of it. So what is kind of your well, and let me say too, I really like that you kind of you have certain things in your PC, but you also have short-term items. Like there's stuff where you're like, all right, I'm going to buy this sealed product. I'm going to hold it for a year and I'm going to sell it at that point, or I'm going to try to sell it and maybe make 25% or make 50% of my money or whatever it is. How are you kind of looking to 2023 as far as just your buying habits? Are you looking for more kind of the short-term stuff, or are you looking to move into, to more longer-term stuff? Have you even thought about it? You don't even have to have an answer really, but
Yeah. So the big part of my money, I'm really a believer in wax, and that's where the diversity comes in for me is through wax. So I think if I talked about serious money, it would be wax, and that would include Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and sports cards. Um, but then if we talk about singles, and to me, that's a little bit more fun stuff because I don't believe in that market as much. But my buying habits have changed quite a bit over the last couple months. I really well, I don't know, it's twofold. I still love dollar flips. That's my bread and butter. I love dollar flips. And I use ComC. If you want to ask what am I going to do in 2023, I literally have about $12,000 in cards sitting on a shelf over here over, I don't know, maybe 600 cards. And those are all going to ComC. There's a card show in February in Houston, and ComC is going to be there, and I'm going to hand them off. That's all going to ComC. And I want all my dollar and quick flips to be on ComC. That's what I want. Now, for the buying on eBay that I plan or on my slabs in the future, stuff that I'm going to get shipped to my house, I'm trying to be better about those buys and not buy $5 stuff because I don't want the clutter in my own life. So more, I'm trying to buy like $150 to $200 cards, and instead of buying 20 cards a month, maybe buying 2 or 3 at most. And here's an example: there's a Micah Parsons playoff ticket that's numbered to 99. Stuff
oh,
like
nice.
that. And so, I mean, stuff like that really is for me. I can't even say that's the flip. That's really more for my collection. But I was thinking about this today after I made my PC video. I was thinking I'm going to do a video about my modern PC. And the thing about my modern PC is it's available for sale. My Joe Namath is not available for sale. But Micah Parsons, if that card hit $400 tomorrow, I would sell it. There's no question I would sell that card. To me, there's a pretty severe distinction. So quick flips on ComC, that kind of stuff. More the bigger cards that I might enjoy a little bit more. I'm trying to focus on bigger cards in that, and then real investing to me is more for wax.
Nice. Yeah, I was just saying before we came on, I feel like I've been, especially over the last year, buying stuff that I'm good holding on to for an extended period of time, a long time. But I almost feel like I should buy some more short term stuff. Like I should have more stuff that kind of like what you have over like the next year or whatever. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to move this in a year, whether that be sealed product or whether it be singles, whatever that is. Because I feel like cards have come down quite a bit over the last 18 months, but 2023, you probably see more of that to a certain degree. But at some point, there's going to be certain players, obviously certain players, to where there's stuff that just kind of overcorrects or just gets too low or whatever. I think that, and also that short-term buying, selling stuff can be fun too. So I think I'll probably hit you up and we can talk more about the
Yeah.
short-term stuff for sure.
Well, let me ask you this because I'm tired of being interviewed here. I'm going to ask you
Dude,
some questions.
flip it. Yeah, flip it around. I'm tired of asking.
Yeah, there you go. You had messaged earlier and said that you kind of would like a Joe Burrow, but you're kind of worried about that market in general, just because of the last few years and how cards are produced and stuff. I mean, what's your mindset like? Because it's funny. I mean, because don't take this as threatening. I guess like I actually want to buy a Joe Burrow, like my head, or a Justin Herbert. My head's in the
Oh,
same space,
I don't take it as threatening because there's so many damn cards out there. We're not
right?
competing. We're not
Yeah.
competing for those, you know.
So what are your thoughts? Like you want a Joe Burrow for the PC, or like I maybe like what I just said, like you kind of want it for PC, but if it goes bananas, you would sell it. So I mean, what are your thoughts? What are the kind of things that you're looking at, or what do you think that's going to be intriguing to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If I go back to 2020, a lot of times what I would do is just buy like multiples of stuff, and we're not talking about huge dollar stuff. I mean, it might be that I see something it's like $50 to $100 each, and I really kind of like. I feel like there's some value there, and it's not super rare. And I buy three of them so that I can move one or two of them and keep one or whatever, or maybe I move all three of them. The thing that worries me, or I guess the thing that sucks, is Joe Burrow is a perfect example of a guy I just really like him. Like I think even though the statistics of you go to the Super Bowl and lose, and no, you're Dan Marino, nobody's ever won. Sorry, flipping Steve in the chat. I didn't mean to stick you a knife
That's
in the
fine.
back there. But if you look at the stats on a guy, you're young, you go to the Super Bowl, you lose, you never go back. Like that's basically like what the story has been. But I think that Burrow is going to be the guy to break that trend. Now, granted, who knows? Maybe he never does. But I just think it sucks because you got Burrow and Lawrence and Herbert and a lot of these guys that have promise. And there's so many different options. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is not that they're not going to have markets, those cards, but which ones? Which ones should I be getting into? And maybe it's just keeping it simple. I think that you had mentioned, in the chat, something like silver prisms and just stuff that people like you know, and figuring out kind of that stuff because I would like to play in that space. I do know that people will buy them, but it's just trying to figure out, what's going to be because even like select football, they completely screwed up select football, over the last year, 2 years. Used to be hobby only. Now it's not, so I'm kind of struggling there a little bit. But so part of me is like, I do want to pick up some of that stuff, but I'm just trying to figure out where to go with it. I'm in research mode.
Yeah, I've been struggling with that a lot myself. I just love buying footballs. I mean, like, I have a shit ton of sitting over here. There's some stuff on it, so I'm not gonna grab it. But I have a ton of score rookies. I mean, these are literally 50-cent cards, dollar cards. I like having football rookies. I've always liked it. And the more that I've been thinking about my buying habits and what's worked for me and what hasn't worked for me, what I like, what I don't like, I think the most important thing is to like kind of stay in a lane. And so for me, ComC is going to be where I can do my cheap stuff and things like that. And then in-person buying or ship to me, I might look for a little bit nicer kind of thing, contenders and up. Um, but to me, like if I look at Burrow, I think it's really important to understand, or Herbert, whatever, understand the different markets and understand, like how does his national treasures market move versus his contenders versus his Prism Silver,
Right.
and then just kind of finding a market that we're comfortable in. And one card I mentioned this to you is, I mean, again, for this stuff to me, which I call pseudo PC, which just means like I do plan on holding this stuff, but again, if it goes bonkers, I'll sell it. I like to have some consistency in that stuff because one, it helps me understand those markets, and then two, if it does end up as a collection, it's consistent, right? It's this thing that is consistent.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite sets to buy in now, and this is the only one on my desk, but it's the Optic RPAs. This is Kadarius Toney. I picked it for $25. I really like these cards. They don't make parallels of them, and they're only numbered to 20 or 25. So if you want an Optic RPA, literally they only make 20 or 25. That's it. There's not 150, there's not 200. The thing that's kind of they have small patches, but they have nice patches. That's kind of their thing. They're sticker autos. It is what it is. But for me, I'm like, between that and between contenders and then maybe Silver Prism, like that's kind of my modern buying, and then that's kind of it. But I'll maybe buy Absolute and play off on ComC because it's 50 cents. But I think that for me, I have to stay in one lane. Otherwise, there's just so much place, so much room to go.
Now, is that rookie cards only, or is that also like if it's like I'm trying to think of who would be a good example. Let's just
Derrick
use
Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Well, and his rookie cards, I would probably go with rookie card there only because they're fairly affordable still. He's a running back, but let's say Jason Tatum. I'm just going to throw out a name here, like third year National Treasures patch auto or something like that. like, because I'm an autograph collector. I collect mostly autographs for Hall of Fame players. And so what are your thoughts on kind of that sort of thing? I haven't bought any of that stuff, but it's just kind of I look at the price points of that is like what are the price points comparatively? Because if you look at if those guys turn out to be great over time, and maybe it's just over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, do those have potential depending on the price point? I guess I was just and maybe it's third year national treasures or something. And that stuff is still expensive, by the way. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like they're giving it away. But if 2023 happens and prices drop and that stuff gets hit, I don't know. But that's part of like my lane that I like to collect anyway. So I'm already buying like the Joe Namath flawless. The guy didn't play. I'm buying like a 2015 Joe Namath flawless. That guy, he hasn't played. He didn't play in 2015. I know a lot of people get bent like those aren't playing years. Like, but that's the type of stuff I like.
I would say, to me, the best thing that people can do is find a lane that they like and stick to it. And it's funny because I just trash talk the hell out of Absolute Football, but actually, I really enjoy that 2022 product. It's not worth what they're asking for, but I think it's a fantastic product. And so, if you want to buy a third year Jason Tatum National Treasures, I mean, I don't know what that card's worth. Let's just say it's worth $600, right? Okay, so if it's ever up for $50, you would buy it. Why? Because clearly you're making a great deal on it. Or if you think Jason Tatum's the next guy, you know the National Treasures veterans auto market, and you say, well, look, if Jason Tatum's the guy, his third year National Treasures should go for like 1,000 to 1,200, but it's a 600 right now, so I think it's a good value. Similarly, if you're more looking at stuff that I like to look at, which football in general is just cheaper, absolute autographs of Matthew Slater, return specialist for the Patriots. I think that's probably a $15 to $20 card all day. If I see it listed for $5, I'm going to buy it. It's an easy flip. Also, I mean, if we want to go for a better example, maybe Joe Burrow, right? So this is what would be his third year, I think, and maybe it gets listed for 150. And I'm like, look, if Joe Burrow's the guy, that's a $400 card or something like that. I think there's room on that card. It's a good price at 150 or whatever. So I'll move in. So I think it's fine to buy that stuff. I think the more important thing is to understand the market for that particular set and that particular category of cards. Category mean like tier. Like is it the A+ tier like National Treasures, or more like the D tier, which would be Absolute or Playoff or something like that. And understanding the room that has to grow if they, if that's like prospecting and that player is going to do how you expect, which positive, how much room is on that. Or again, there's a ton of value in eBay on just knowing prices, seeing newest listed and buying because someone listed too cheap and they're reselling like 2 weeks later. There's plenty of room there.
I think too, when I think about it, it's like Joe Burrow doesn't have to be the next Tom Brady. He just needs to be a popular quarterback that's got the Bengals in the mix for the next 3 to 5 years if you're in that short-term game, because you're not holding that thing for 5 years. So it's like whether Burrow wins the Super Bowl or not, it's more about just, is he in the mix? Is he in the playoffs every year? Are the Bengals kind of, because again, you're not going to be holding on to it, and if he does turn into that guy and you have it, I guess you can hold it long term. But I guess just strictly if we're looking at long term, and so yeah, maybe even though there are a lot of Joe Burrow cards, there's still enough excitement around a guy like him, to where there's upside on it. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you a recent play that I've had on ComC. Again, to me, these are ComC plays. I've been buying the hell out of absolute rookies, and one of the better plays I think is I bought a lot of Jalen Hurts, just base absolute for $2, and then maybe the green parallel for like $3. And look, that's not exciting, but the thing is, the Eagles, maybe the best roster in football. Them or the 49ers, probably really good chance that they get carried to the Super Bowl. If Hurts goes to the Super Bowl this year, that $2 absolute rookie is $10 minimum. I mean, that's the minimum price on an absolute base rookie for a guy that's in the Super Bowl. And so to me, that's just an easy play. $2 is, I mean, we're really talking about a floor there. And, the upside of $10 in a couple months, it just seems like a low risk, high reward kind of play.
Yeah. Are you having luck with, I guess, because I've heard you say before, I'll get into a break to get Texans players because I'm buying, I'm getting, that's my team. when you're buying a defensive player, because typically if you're talking to hobby people, they're like, why would I buy a Lawrence Taylor rookie card? Nobody cares about defensive players, which if we're comparing them to quarterbacks and everything else, fine. I
Sure.
understand the point there.
Yeah.
Offensive linemen, same thing. But when you're buying these types of cards like Absolute, whether like a Micah Parsons, are there enough kind of collectors out there on ComC to do those, like Micah Parsons has 20 sacks and you're able to sell that for double what you bought or whatever? Because that's what I'm hearing. It kind of sounds to me like, there's got to be, I don't know if that's necessarily investor folks or if it's just people that are like, damn, that's a really sweet Micah Parsons auto. I'm a Cowboys fan. I buy into that stuff. And, here we are.
Yeah, so there's one argument that I really hate in the hobby, and I think this is really driven by that one guy up there in Ohio, Neo, something like that. I think that guy really drives this argument home.
He doesn't know much.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm
Neo Comics and Comics.
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, what's he know about sports cards? I really do hate this argument, though. I mean, he's taking it. It's not that. Now I'm just shitting on Neo, but I don't mean to be. Like,
Yeah.
He's being very tactical in his approach when he's like, you can buy it back. That whole sentiment. I mean, that sentiment is more than you can sell now, make some money and buy it back later. It's also saying you don't care about having the card right now. But I think that collectors in sports enjoy having cards of the players they love when that player is balling out. Like, I just bought this Micah Parsons. They're going to the playoffs. They're going to ball out. And why'd I buy that Parsons? Because I want it for the playoff run. I want it because I want to have it when he may be on the biggest stage of his entire career. Right. So
Right.
to me, there's value as a collector, as a person who enjoys cards doing that. And I'm willing to accept that I may lose 10%, 30%, whatever. I don't care. Right. I'm not being so mathematical and so tactical in that calculation. So then carrying that over, I think there's a lot of people in the hobby world, especially in football cards. Football cards is really, it's more niche. It's more niche than baseball or basketball. So I think a lot of the people who are into football cards really like football cards. And so, yeah, you can flip defensive players. It's actually relatively easy. I mean, if you want a huge margin, right? If you want to turn an $80 card into a $200 card, it's not that easy. I mean, you really have to nail the guy. It has to be not just the right player, but they have to be on the right team. They have to be in the right season. Like the stars have to align for stuff like that. But you can certainly see, beforehand, a lot of people, I'm going to throw a name out there. Their eyes are going to glaze over. Hell, yours, my Nick Bolton, linebacker for the Chiefs. Paul in the chat, he called out Nick Bolton's going to be a good player. And if you bought Nick Bolton early, you turned $1 into 10 or something, right? It's not that exciting, but it's still pretty good. And it's doable, but it just requires a level of detail that a lot of people don't really want to do. They just want to stay at the Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Trey Young, charts and graph level, right? Not a shot at Neo.
Yeah. I don't
actually not a shot at Neo, but that is what people want. People want there's 7 people. I'm seeing the 5 hottest and the 5 coldest, and I'm just buying the coldest and selling when they land on the hottest, right? That's what a lot of people want. But, I think most people in the football card community aren't that way. People deep in the football community, collect linemen. There's people in the chat that I know collect linemen. And
no, it's an interesting point. Yeah, there's really diehard football card collectors that aren't necessarily also basketball or also a lot of other things. There's a lot of diehard football card collectors. Yeah, but you're right. It is niche. It's probably, I think it's a bigger market than hockey. I'm sure I know in Canada, hockey is bigger, but similarly to where people will say like, oh, hockey card collectors are really big on their, the prospects and their players. They're really passionate about their stuff. Football card collectors are similar, but it's not as big of a market as basketball and baseball yet, at least, for sure. All right. I'm trying to go back to the chat to see if I'm kind of neglecting a little bit here.
Chats, they're all over the place. There's a little bit of talk about John Morant. John Morant's let's see who said Jay Buwan, B1. He's defending John Morant. John Morant's not good, man. Not at 3-point shots. John Morant is a fantastic player, not a good 3-point shooter. He's still less than 35%, which is unacceptable from your starting point guard. What do you think about Zion? Zion's been an interesting story. He hasn't been as good as Luka. He hasn't been top tier this year, but he's been all right,
Yeah, I mean the Pelicans. Well, the last time I saw, the West is pretty wide open, and isn't Steph hurt for the next few weeks or something? So I mean, I think AD just went down for the Lakers. Not that they were expected to win a title, but I mean, you know, he was playing pretty well, and I know they started slow, but kind of were doing well. And then now, I mean, the West just it seems like it's wide open. Neo's Cavs are going to win the East, I think. That's what he told me anyway.
We'll see. I mean, Mitchell's been balling out pretty good. I think the best player this year has been Luka Doncic, followed by Jokic, and then Mitchell and Giannis probably had the arguments behind them, I think.
Do you get into basketball cards the same way? I mean, I know that you buy basketball cards, but do you do it the same way that you do with football, with different positions and stuff?
Yeah, the position doesn't matter to me. For basketball, what happens is, I love playing basketball, so I just kind of find that there's a couple players that I kind of gravitate towards. I enjoy watching them: Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Giannis. And then I like to just have one or two cards in in my collection. That's really it. I have rookie cards for those three guys. I have really nice parallels in early years for all three of those guys, and that's kind of my collection for them, and I'm happy with that.
I'm not going to dance around this too much just because I know that most of these folks are sports card people, but you have drifted off into Pokemon land. How much of your focus is on sealed product for Pokemon compared to sports cards? And when are you coming back to only sports cards?
I'm never going back to only sports cards.
I
The
mean,
thing
I'm
about
sitting
Pokemon,
here I'm buying Stranger Things cards, so I can't talk at all.
yeah, there you go. And you buy, well, you buy all sorts of stuff. I was thinking, what's the the figures, but it's
Yeah.
still sports though.
Oh yeah, starting lineups but I've
Starting
got
lineup.
Masters of the Universe and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
crazy.
The thing about Pokemon, I guess because I buy wax. I mean, sports cards is the same way if you're buying wax. You don't have to put too much thought into it. You just kind of say, do I like this particular set? Yes or no? If yes, what products do I like the best? And then at what price do I want to buy those products? And you just try to buy at that price. And then, my business model for Pokemon is I sit on it for 3 to 5 years and we'll see what happens. I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't have to spend too much mental energy into it, which is nice.
What are your thoughts on? So I bought a couple Barry Bonds autos. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I'm a Hall of Fame auto guy, pack pull type stuff, and I've been looking at kind of the what is it, like Topps Definitive, kind of more of the high end Topps baseball stuff.
Yeah.
And the regular patch autos are very cool, and just autos in general. But I've been also looking at dual autos, and that to me is like that's kind of cool because they're on card. So I'm assuming both of those players touch the card to be able to, to be able to sign it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts for that sort of thing? Because I know I don't think that's really in your wheelhouse or stuff that you've really focused on. But I was just started looking at that. I've got a couple, like I've got the two guys that I recently bought are McGuire and Ricky Henderson. And I recently saw a dual auto. Both of these guys are on it. And I was like, that's actually really damn cool. And it's not like it's, crazy money. It's not cheap, but it's not crazy money. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that stuff?
So, couple thoughts here. I'm trying to
The
figure
other
out
thing,
where to
let me
start.
say too, is I know
Go
that
ahead.
Ricky has signed a ton. So part of the reason, and probably Mark McGuire as well, but that's part of the reason why I like the dual is because of that. Because I know those guys have signed a ton. So it's like this is a thing that makes it unique, like a dual or a triple.
So I think sticker versus on card is overplayed. I think people put they speak too much about the on card versus sticker thing. I think the buying habits indicate a little bit different. I think there's no question there's a preference for on card versus sticker. I don't think the preference is that high though, especially if you get into even just slightly 4 or 5 years ago, because there just weren't as many cards. Also, I think that how the sticker is executed matters a lot. I think if the sticker is obvious, but also kind of cheap looking, a good example would be actually this Contenders Micah Parsons. I hate those clear stickers like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like they don't want you to see the sticker, but you obviously still see the sticker versus like that's not a good example. Versus like just a regular silver sticker. I actually am a big fan of those. So that goes to the sticker on card thing. I think that we speak to on card and give it a little bit of a preference that I don't know that it's as high as we say. And then for dual autos, from my time in the hobby, right? This is 20 years of experience in the hobby. Dual autos do not age well. Dual autos, it's very, very tricky
Now,
because when you have a Ricky, go ahead.
is it because one of the players is irrelevant?
It so that is a huge gamble. That
Yeah.
especially if you're talking about you bought a dual rookie auto, right? the real risk is in 5 years, only one of those guys matter. I mean, hell, you're lucky if one of them matters, but if one
Yeah.
does, the problem is the other one doesn't, right? But then to your point, if you're saying Ricky and McGuire, I mean, that's a pretty good one. It's just for a dual auto or a multiple autos, it really has to line up. I mean, it has to be boom because you can find a Mark McGuire, you can find a ton of Mark McGuire collectors, and you can find a ton of Ricky Henderson collectors. But to find both a Mark and a Ricky collector, I mean, because they both played for the Athletics, there's going to be some overlap there. But how much of the market of each of those guys are you cutting off? I would think,
Yeah.
probably at least 50% of both, right?
Yeah, like examples are like Derek Jeter and like Mariano Rivera, and then they've got like Roger Clemens and Wade Boggs for the Red Sox. So at least I
Right.
guess you get like a Red Sox collector that just likes both of those guys,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right though. I've also looked at where it's like Joe Namath and Chad Pennington dual auto,
Right. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or Jamarcus Russell was on one or whatever, So yeah, I totally get it. I wouldn't buy any. It would be like 2 Hall of Famers or 2 legend type things.
Well, some of them, I mean, because like even Ricky and McGuire, there's some overlap, but to me, like the upper echelon, what's the dream? I think Jeter and Mariano Rivera. I think that's you nailed it. Like that's the dream. That's the two. I mean, they played their whole career there, both of them basically together, like tied to the hip. It's going to be like the overlap between those two groups of collectors is probably like 98%, right? Like it's so high. Whereas Ricky versus McGuire, maybe it's 33% or 50%, probably at most, I would guess 50%.
Yeah, I saw Triggerfinger. Is it true that Brad is moving into Dustin's house to start filming a card-themed Netflix series? And the answer, Trigger, is yes, that is what is happening. We've got this retirement from cards is really, he's taking over Ken Golden's Netflix special. I don't know what's taken so long for Ken and that Netflix special, but it looks like Brad is going to take over. He's taking over the new Netflix series. Did you see the new documentary that was going around? Did you watch it?
Nah.
No. Okay.
I mean, whatever. I mean, I watched Carlos's review, and I know we talked about it a little bit. Did you watch it? What are your thoughts?
I did watch it just because I felt like I had to watch it just because but honestly, and especially after, because we had talked to the director as well. And it's obvious that people that are in it, especially people that are in the content world, we're not the target audience for that at all. Like just not even close. Now you can argue whether it's good for the general public. There's going to be people that are like, if, I don't think this is good for the public, let alone for card people or whatever. And that's everyone's got their own opinions on that. So yeah, it wasn't, I think if I knew nothing about cards, there might be some interesting nuggets in there for sure. But just because we've been doing content basically since all these other guys have, essentially, that it makes, it's just kind of like the same stuff. And a lot of it was 101 type stuff where, it wasn't super helpful for me, but maybe for others, for sure. I'll be Switzerland. I'll play Switzerland on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I just understand that maybe some of the information was dated in it.
Like Bobby Hebert with Drew Brees or something. Yuck. Hey, now, the Raging Cajun was actually pretty damn good. That's when I became a Saints fan. I was 6 years old, 1987. We had just moved to the U.S. from England. My dad was stationed there, and then we moved to Tyndall Air Force Base in Panama City, Florida. And Bobby Hebert was our quarterback. So I understand what you're saying, Hobby Champs, but I have a little bit of a soft spot for Hebert. And he's still part of the organization. He's like on radio. He's got his own radio show and everything. So yeah, we just haven't had that many good quarterbacks. So like Bobby Hebert is probably like the 3rd or 4th best quarterback that's ever played for the franchise.
Breeze, Manning, Dalton, Hebert. Is that the list? Dalton is
Andy, I saw something weird. Something that was weird though, like PFF, they come out with all the stats and everything. And like, I saw something like Andy Dalton's like their 6th rated quarterback. I'm like, what planet are we on?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's had some good games, but then he's had absolute atrocious 3 INTs, to end the game type thing.
Yeah, I saw that too. I thought it was kind of bad. What'd your pops do in the Air Force? I didn't know he was in the Air Force. He
was a civil engineer.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, he wasn't flying planes. The story that he tells me is that he didn't have the eyesight for it. So both my grandfathers were pilots. My dad's dad was a pilot in the Air Force, and my mom's dad was too. That's actually how my parents met. They were stationed together. My grandfather was in the Royal Air Force, mine was in the U.S. Air Force. They were stationed in Nebraska at the same time. And then my parents came to visit them for some sort of like holiday retreat thing or whatever, and that's how they met. And so, yeah, they were both pilots. So put a lot of pressure on my dad, who he says that he didn't pass the eyesight or the eye exam or whatever to be a pilot, and that's why he's an engineer. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe him or not. Hopefully he's
Why are
not
you
watching.
questioning your pops? Just let his story be the truth, man. Why are you putting doubt into people's
I know.
mind? Your dad had poor eyesight. It's all right. He was a great engineer, I'm sure.
No, I believe him. I think that he would have flown if he could. He loves it.
Hey, what's up, John Mangini? I'm drinking coffee. There you go. Coffee for tonight.
I almost did. For John Mangini, I was thinking about doing some sort of a parody for his. What is it? When I get sad, I look at baseball cards or something. I was going to do
cards.
I was going to do a parody on that. So watch for that, John. That might be coming. We'll see. Nothing too crazy, but I was going to throw in like a Mr. Bigglesworth, Austin Powers thing because you have a cat or something in there that you use.
All right.
So, yeah, I'm going to throw some comedy on it.
That'd be pretty good. He's always got the best stuff, man. I love watching his videos. You never know what the hell he's about to bust out, man.
I need to watch. I think I've caught I catch like half of them. I feel like he does have some really nice stuff. My father was in the Canadian Air Force for 25 years, worked on electronics. Sweet.
I missed that comment. I'm trying to keep up, but I missed that.
A Beckett special, $50, 2 to 5 day turnaround time. Yeah, it looks like grading is, I wouldn't say it's cheap, but it's definitely come down. I think that 2023 is going to be another movement down for a lot of companies, which will be helpful for all of us. We're trying to grade cards. How do you feel about that? Are you looking to grade a lot in 2023, or are you just going to kind of take it as it comes, or what's your thought there?
Yeah, I've never been a big grader. I've been pretty vocal about like not giving a shit about the grading companies, and it's because I don't grade much. I do have a set of Pokemon cards over here that I'll grade, and the intent is to sell those. And then I've got 10 or 15 sports cards that I want to send in a grade, but those are all PC. I just want to get encapsulated, and at $15 a pop or whatever seems pretty good. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. A lot of the stuff, especially too, if it's low numbered and it's rare, it's more of just, I don't even care what the grade comes back. And like I said, a lot of it's like autograph. So it's more about, I'm trying to get that 10 auto grade ideally. And then if it's a 7 or an 8 on a modern card, I know that sounds terrible, but it's like, it doesn't really matter to me because it's already a rare card.
Yeah, and I have some stuff. I mean, for me, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to display my PC. And I got some stuff I told you before that I bought some pro molds, and I'm a fan of those. Like, because like stuff like this card, this is something I would have sent off to PSA to get encapsulated, and protected. But now with the pro molds, you can put it in a soft sleeve. It's in a one touch. It looks very good, and it has some UV protection. So stuff like this, because it's not going to grade too well. It's Von Miller, RPA. It's not going to grade too well.
Oh, that's a nice card.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And so like stuff like this, I'm liking it like this a little bit more. So, I'm really just trying to finesse my PC and make sure it looks the way that I want it to look. But as far as grading individual cards, I'm not into it. It's a lot of work. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So for those pro molds, do they take thicker cards? The reason why I say it is because a lot of times you'll get like we've talked about that 2006 Donruss National Treasures football where, it's a nice set. There's a lot of game used stuff, but a lot of them are beat up and they're kind of thicker cards. If they have thicker ones of that, I'd almost rather and it's got the UV protection and all that. Cause it's a beat up, like it's not going to grade out, but it's a nice card.
Yeah. They have like, so each one of them, when you buy, it's each one, they're like $2 each holder. And like, it'll say there, you see how it says 55 point, and they have, you can see 33. Oh man, get this in front of me. 55, 75, and then here's a 75, and it goes 100. And then some of the ones I have in front of me right now, because I only out of the really big ones, I was just buying one at a time because I don't really know how the point system works. So I was just buying one at a time to try to get a feel. And so I have like 100 point, 130, and 150, and I used all those. So yeah, they have different thicknesses. Maybe I can show you like this. Will this show it well? Maybe hold on. Let me grab. Maybe if I do it like this, you might be able to see. Can you see you can't really see. Hold on, let me put.
Well, yeah, I can.
Here's the Parsons.
Thick.
You
it's
can
kind of.
Oh my god! Put it in front of my face. You can kind of see. Oh man, you can't cover my face. Goodness gracious! There you can see like how thick the Von Miller is. Like that's a whole set case that Von Miller's on top, and on the bottom is a Micah Parsons, and it's real thin. So they make it specific so that it sits just right. And then when you buy these, which is really good, if you buy the 35 points the thinnest, that's like a base tops card or something like that, a paper card. Anything above that, it comes with a card sleeve so that you have a sleeve that properly fits your larger cards, right? Those RPAs. Because I know for me, that's always a hassle finding a sleeve that fits correctly, like a penny sleeve.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I might reach out to you on those because I've got stuff like that where it's like it's too thick to grade it. Or it's like, or it's too
Right.
thick for SGC, so I got to go to PSA. I'm trying to fit, but then it's like $40-$50 to grade it with PSA because it's autographed. I don't, so I'm just trying to figure out like, do I even want to grade it? So I'll come back to you on those.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been trying these out there. I guess they're on their third generation. So if you went to their website, it's kind of expensive. But if you go to eBay, you can get first and second gen. I don't know how much of a difference there is, but you can get them at a pretty steep discount and still, new and wrapped, as you can see, still wrapped. So
Yeah, let me just make a note there. Pro mold. Okay.
I think Steve knows the owner of the company. Maybe not. I could be wrong on that. I don't want to be
Flippin'
quite
Steve.
expensive. Yeah,
Maybe
I
we
don't.
can get a sponsorship.
Yeah, I'm not important enough, so maybe Steve can. He's got to pay for that saltwater pool.
Yeah, I can't. I want to go up and check it out. He went dark a little bit. No live drives, no nothing. So he better become. I hope he's got just content lined up for the next year.
He better.
And you're
That son of a.
so
Go
speaking of
ahead.
that, you're going to the national this year, right?
Yeah, I bought my ticket.
Or next year?
Yeah, I bought the ticket for this one in Chicago, and I just got to talk to the missus about. I mean, we'll take the train. I like taking a train. We just got to find an Airbnb. We won't stay near the convention center. We'll stay on the west side of town, but yeah, I'll be up there.
Have you ever been to one before?
No,
Yeah, my
first
first
one.
one was a couple of years ago, and I don't know though. I have not. I have a kind of a smaller regional show here in Raleigh, but it's. I mean, the national is a massive show. I don't. I guess maybe if you're in LA or if you're in kind of a larger space where there's bigger shows, then maybe it's not, or it's not as daunting. But it is an absolutely massive show. There's a lot. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, how big was it? I guess did you go to the one in Chicago 2 years ago?
Yeah. I feel like though that's kind of a tough one to compare against because that's like where, everybody was high on the, on the hobby. It was like,
Mhm.
all the excitement of everything going on. And it was also like everybody had been bottled up at home for 2 years because of the pandemic. And so a lot of people made the trip for it. And so, I don't know. So I don't know what to expect, but the hotels and stuff, I remember I got my hotel 2 years ago in like February, and that was very early. And there was all the options to get a hotel. I could pick from 20 different hotels. And then I booked my hotel a couple of days ago, and we're not even into 2023 yet. And there was like nothing. Everything is sold out. So, I mean, maybe, a lot of people are planning on going. It seems to be that way, so I don't know. I think that it's just interesting because obviously pricing has moved down. Transactions maybe aren't happening as much, but it definitely feels like there's interest. There's certainly interest. There's people that are at least going to the show that they might not spend $1 million, but they're going at least for the experience.
It's interesting because you talked about transactions. Well, one, so I think Chicago, maybe the logistics make it more desirable. I mean, I wouldn't go to Atlantic City, but I'll go to Chicago. Um, but volume's interesting. I had this one card I'm trying to buy today. I bought two of them, but it was just so difficult. Like the market price says it's less than $100, right? It's right around $90, but the sellers don't want to sell. I would be willing to buy probably 10 of them at that $90 to $100 price, but sellers aren't willing to sell. So it's almost like, we look at volume and we say, well, volume's down. That means people don't want to buy. I was like, I mean, for me, the specific card I'm looking at, volume is down, but it's not because I don't want to buy. I would be very happy to buy. It's because sellers don't want
Right.
to sell. So I don't know.
Oh, that's what I mean. I think there's definitely buyers at the show. I made videos about that. I got a bunch of flack because I made a video. It's like 75% of dealers will be gone in a year, and
Mhm.
maybe some people think that's too high. But my main point is if you're just sitting there setting up a card museum at a show and you don't really have a whole lot of interest in moving cards, there's probably, especially the national or like Dallas show. I mean, there's a wait list for these shows. Like
Yep.
I can't call up and be like, all right, I want to buy a table. They're like, sorry, there's a wait list. Well, if you're waiting behind exhibitors that don't want to sell anything or they're not super serious about selling anything, then then what are we doing?
Yep.
So I don't know. I think that's going to correct itself in 2023. That's my
Yeah.
bold prediction. It's not very bold, I don't think.
I know controversially, I've said that I think these show runners should kick sellers out if they're not willing to sell around comps. If you brought a card and you're not willing to sell it around comps, get out of my show. I have people that want to line up, they want to sell. If you're taking up 2 tables of space at the Dallas Card Show, and every card there you're not willing to sell unless it's 150% of comps, I don't need you at the show. All you're doing is wasting space because there's other people who want to bring cards and they want to sell. And the whole draw is the sellers, that people have cards out that you can buy. That's the whole draw to the show. If you're not willing to sell, I don't need you. Leave.
So the tricky thing with shows, because I a long time ago I used to sell exhibit space for a trade show company, and so what happens is like at the National, they'll like this last year's National Atlantic City, they probably went to all those exhibitors and said, hey, let's go ahead and sign you up for next year. Go ahead and put down a deposit for next year and lock in your space. And so that's how it happens. And for the people throwing the shows, that's great for them because they've got it all booked out. So when they're going and paying all the upfront money for the conference center and they're paying for all the stuff, then they're like, okay, cool, we sold out. When, I mean, in reality, if it was like a free market where they had tables at auction, if it was like, all right, here's our exhibit space, auction starts tomorrow at midnight or whatever, like I'm sure they would probably make more money, but that's just kind of how those things usually were. I'm not saying that that's how this works, but in my experience, just they're trying to kind of book everything up as much as possible, get as many deposits as they can so that they can kind of, pay for stuff ahead of time and all that and be profitable.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
And I'm sure going back 5, 6, 7 years, they might not have been able to sell out, these shows, especially my local show in Raleigh. 2 years ago, it was half the size that it is now. I mean, they weren't selling out at all. They were struggling. So I'm sure that, a lot of these companies are just happy to be, selling. We're sold out, great. And, they just move on.
Yeah. I think it's fair for the National too. I mean, because you're talking about once a year. Really, in my head, I'm really more thinking about like the Dallas, because it's like every 2 months. And it's just like, when they know these guys, they talk to them all the time. Why can't you hire somebody to walk around and just try to gauge how their selling is? And if they're not moving cards, if you've got a list of people behind them willing to take the table, give it to the next guy. But,
yeah. Ryan McClanahan, I felt the National was like a museum. I enjoy museums, but not at card shows. If you don't want to sell the card, then don't bring it. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. Well, and then you've got kind of nuance between vintage cards and then modern, ultra modern stuff. Yeah, the vintage, and Ryan primarily buys vintage stuff, as we know.
I think a little bit of more of an intriguing twist on tables has been you'll have people go in and buy a table together. And in fact, I know Steve's done this with some folks. I don't know if you were included or not. But I mean, they'll put some cards out or whatever, and they're willing to sell. But really, it's just kind of a home base during the show. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I think there's a lot of value in that. So I don't know. I think the show scene is changing and how we view it. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like 3 years from now how shows look compared.
Well, especially too, I was looking at pricing for I know it's not cheap to go to the Dallas show. I know it's not cheap to go to the National, but for certain shows, you look at the price and it's like a couple $100 for, a day, for the day, or, a few $100s for 2 days to have a table. It's like, it's not that much money. I mean, yeah, it's, it's a decent amount of money, but it's not crazy. It's not costing you, especially if you're driving in or something, I mean, and yeah, if it's 3 or 4 people that are throwing cards into it, and splitting the cost, it's really not too bad. So yeah, I agree with you. Inglorious P, the issue in the hobby is you have all these over leveraged assets that people overpaid for, similar to real estate market. Inglorious, I really kind of wonder how much is left of that too, because we talk about that, but it would be great to know those percentages, like how much is still over leveraged, how much more pain, I guess, how many people still need to, margin called. And you hear that a lot, what's left of that stuff, and have dealers kind of purged a lot of that inventory, and how's that going to go into 2023? I actually think that I'm really excited to go to the National 2023 because I think it's going to be similar to the National in 2019 as far as not all pricing, but I think that it's going to be busier than the National 2019, no doubt. But I do think that it's going to be more normal as far as pricing goes. Hopefully, we'll see. All right, Mike Petty, Willie Mays is down up to 20% right now, while Mantle is still up. I almost feel like, though, with Mike on that front, everybody, I feel like going back a year plus, everyone's been buying Willie Mays, and I know it's morbid, but it's like he's people think, oh, he's going to pass away here in the next few years. I want to make sure I have the cards. I'll get some sort of a a bump after that. But everyone's been buying into that to Willie Mays. Like, oh, Mickey Mantle's very expensive. Willie Mays, here's Willie Mays. And a lot of people argue Willie Mays was a better player than Mantle, but he just doesn't get the same sort of hobby love or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the hobby, I mean, it's always been kind of a trope to say that, when they pass their cards, will get a bit of a bump. But in this recent, fanatic era of sports cards, when Hank Aaron passed, I mean, his cards exploded, and his rookie on card in person auto just went bananas. And I think I think that market got saturated very quickly with people looking at who's going to die next and picking up those cards.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's when it's tough because historically you have speculators, obviously, in sports cards. That's what a lot of people have been doing going back forever. But we've had just a massive number of speculators over the last 3 years. So everyone's ahead of all these curves. Like, everyone's already ahead of all these things. Right. It's kind of like to your point. All right, guys, we're coming up to an hour. I've got the hot tub is sitting at 101 degrees, and Dakota's got dinner, I think, come on the table. There's all sorts of things going on here. So he's got his family stuff. So we'll probably wrap up. But thanks. This was kind of an impromptu live, and it was awesome. I just kind of reached out to Dakota a couple hours ago, and he was gracious enough to come on. Hopefully, there is no more Brad on off-centered. So we are going to be kind of rotating people in, and Dakota hopefully will come on again when we have off-centered. I have been in talks with Sports Card Radio to possibly be the first guest, co-host, whatever, to come on off-centered in January when we pick that up. So hopefully that happens. And we'll, like I said, we're going to kind of rotate in a lot of different people, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time with it. And Brad will be back as well. He'll be popping in. He'll definitely be popping in still. Dakota, anything that you want to throw out there before we wrap?
Nah, have a good Christmas, y'all. That's it.
Yeah. Dakota's retired, but he'll have 3 videos out tomorrow. So everyone be ready. Right. Everyone be ready for that.
Yep. There you go. So no, I mean, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's fun to, catch up a little bit here and there. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to the new format for off-centered, and seeing how that goes.
All right, man. Cool. All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.